In the quiet hum of an ordinary Tuesday evening, Sarah rummaged through the kitchen drawer, searching for the receipt of a toaster they needed to return. Her fingers, however, gripped something unexpected, a crumpled envelope that seemed deliberately hidden. Curiosity piqued, she smoothed out the creases, revealing a credit card statement under Eric's name, flashing a glaring, unpaid balance that spiraled far beyond what any toaster could cost. The numbers stared back at her, unyielding and cold. $30,000 in outstanding debt, a number she had never seen associated with their joint finances. Her heart sank into her stomach. Her hands trembled with the paper. The quiet of the kitchen now screamed in her ears, a stark contrast to the chaos erupting in her mind. "How could he keep this from me?" she whispered to the empty room, the betrayal twisting like a knife in her chest. The trust she thought they shared had fractures now, deep and possibly irreparable. When Eric walked through the door, tired from a long day of work, he was met not with the usual warmth, but a cold, unsettling silence. Sarah stood in the middle of the living room, the bill held out towards him like an accusation. Her eyes, usually so full of warmth, were narrowed, her posture rigid with tension. "What is this, Eric?" Her voice was steady, but it betrayed a slight quiver of emotion. Eric's face drained of color as he saw the statement in her hand. He knew this moment was inevitable, yet he had hoped for more time. Time he no longer had. "It's not what it looks like," he started, his voice trailing off weakly as Sarah stepped forward, her anger finding its voice. "Not what it looks like. It looks like $30,000 of debt that you never thought to mention." Her voice rose, a crescendo of hurt and confusion. "How long were you going to keep this from me?" Eric's shoulders slumped, the weight of his secret now out in the open. He looked away, unable to meet her gaze. "I was going to tell you, I swear. I was just waiting for the right time." "The right time?" Sarah laughed bitterly. "And when would that be, Eric? When it doubled? When it ruined us?" The room filled with a tense silence, the air thick with unspoken fears and uncertainties about their future. After a moment that felt like an eternity, Eric spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was ashamed, Sarah. I lost control of it. And before I knew it, things just spiraled. I didn't want to burden you with it." "Burden me?" Sarah's voice softened slightly, the initial shock giving way to a profound sadness. "Eric, we promised to face things together, no matter what. But hiding this, how can we trust each other?" Eric nodded, the remorse written all over his face. "I know I messed up and I'm so sorry. We need to fix this together. Can we try to work this out?" Sarah paused, the hurt still raw, yet her love for Eric urged her to find a way through the mess. "We need to talk about everything, Eric. No more secrets. We need a plan." As they stood amidst the shards of their fractured trust, the conversation that followed was difficult but necessary. They talked late into the night, unpacking years of financial decisions, fears, and failures. It was the beginning of a long journey toward healing, one that would require openness, hard work, and dedication to forge a path to recovery and rebuild the trust that was once the foundation of their marriage. The days that followed the revelation were strained and heavy with an unspoken tension. Mornings once filled with casual chats over coffee now passed in silence. Eric and Sarah moved around each other like strangers, each lost in their own turmoil. The air between them was thick with the residue of broken trust, and the house that once echoed with laughter now seemed to only reverberate with the echo of their last argument. Sarah grappled with a whirlwind of emotions. Betrayal stung sharply, but beneath that was a growing resentment. Financial stability had always been her comfort zone, her assurance against the unpredictable twists of life. Now, she felt vulnerable, exposed to unknown threats that lurked in shadowed corners of their future. Why didn't he trust me enough to tell me? She pondered, while sitting in the quiet of their living room, where pictures of happier times stood in stark contrast to their current reality. Her thoughts were interrupted by the creak of the floorboards as Eric entered the room, a tentative step toward reconciliation. "Sarah, can we talk?" His voice was low, filled with regret. She nodded, steeling herself for a conversation she knew was necessary yet dreaded. Eric sat down, taking a deep breath before he spoke. "I know I've broken something important between us. I was scared of disappointing you, scared of admitting that I had failed us financially." Sarah's expression softened slightly, a mix of pain and understanding in her eyes. "Eric, I'm scared too. Scared of what this might mean for us, for our future. How do we come back from this?" "It's going to take time," Eric admitted, his voice a mix of hope and hesitation. "I want to make things right, but I can't do it without you. We need a plan, something to get us back on track." Sarah considered his words, the practical part of her brain ticking over as she thought about budgets, spreadsheets, and schedules. But another part, the wounded part, hesitated. "It's not just about the money, Eric. It's about us, about whether I can trust you again." "I know," Eric agreed solemnly, "and I want to rebuild that trust, no matter how long it takes. Maybe we need help, someone who can guide us through this." The suggestion of seeking professional help was a turning point. It acknowledged that the issues they faced were bigger than just numbers on a bank statement. It was about their relationship, their commitments, and their future together. Sarah nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right. Let's find someone who can help us deal with this debt and everything else." With that decision, the first step toward healing was taken. They researched and found a financial counselor experienced in dealing with financial infidelity. Scheduling the appointment was like setting a date for the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with uncertainty, but also a sliver of hope. The counselor, Mrs. Thompson, was a gentle yet straightforward woman who had seen many couples in their situation. In her cozy office, filled with books on finance and relationship psychology, Eric and Sarah took their seats, each clutching a coffee as though it were a lifeline. "So, tell me about what brought you here," Mrs. Thompson began, her voice calm and inviting. Eric looked at Sarah, giving her a small nod before he started. "I hid debt from Sarah, a lot of it, and now we're trying to figure out how to move forward." Mrs. Thompson listened intently, jotting down notes before she spoke. Financial infidelity can be just as damaging to a relationship as any other kind of betrayal. The path to recovery is often long and requires open communication, transparency, and most importantly, patience from both of you. As the session unfolded, Eric and Sarah began to unravel the complexities of their financial life, guided by Mrs. Thompson's expert questions and insights. They discussed budgets, but they also delved deeper into their values and fears about money. Leaving the office that day, Eric and Sarah felt a cautious optimism. The road ahead was daunting, filled with challenges and hard conversations, but for the first time in weeks, they felt like they were facing it together. They had taken the first steps towards managing their finances and healing their relationship, driven by the newfound resolve to restore the foundation they once thought unshakable. With the decision to seek professional help made, Eric and Sarah embarked on a journey that felt both daunting and necessary. The search for the right experts to guide them through their intertwined financial and emotional recovery was meticulous. Sarah took the lead, vetting each counselor with a keen eye, determined to find someone who could not only navigate the tricky waters of finance, but also understand the fragile dynamics of a strained relationship. They settled on two specialists, Mrs. Thompson, a financial counselor known for her expertise in debt management and financial planning, and Dr. Lee, a marriage therapist with a warm demeanor and a reputation for helping couples rebuild trust. Their first session with Mrs. Thompson was in her office, a space that felt both professional and inviting. Eric and Sarah sat side by side, a united front, yet individually bracing for the discomfort of laying bare their financial woes. "Let's start by understanding your current financial situation," Mrs. Thompson suggested, her tone both kind and businesslike. She handed them a worksheet, a simple tool to break down their incomes, debts, and spending. The task was practical, yet as they filled it out, the numbers spelled out stories of unspoken fears and hidden mistakes. Eric hesitated as he wrote down the figures, each digit a reminder of his missteps. Sarah's pen moved steadily, her methodical nature grappling with the chaos of their finances. Sharing these details felt like an invasion of privacy, yet also a necessary step towards healing. "It's important to be completely transparent with each other about your spending habits," Mrs. Thompson advised, noticing the tension in their posture. "Understanding where your money goes is the first step to regaining control." The couple nodded, a silent agreement to face their realities head-on. As the session continued, Mrs. Thompson guided them through the basics of budgeting and debt repayment strategies. The information was technical, yet delivered in a way that made it accessible and, surprisingly, empowering. Their sessions with Dr. Lee were a different kind of challenge. The therapist's office was softer, filled with comfortable chairs and gentle lighting, designed to ease the emotional armor of her clients. Here, the focus was on communication and trust, the underlying threads that held together the fabric of their marriage. "Talk to me about how you've been feeling since discovering the debt," Dr. Lee prompted, her voice gentle yet probing. Sarah took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly as she started. "Betrayed, scared, and a bit lost. I thought we were in this together, and then I found out about the debt." Eric listened, his expression one of regret and understanding. When it was his turn, he spoke honestly about his fear of failure and disappointment. "I didn't want to let her down. Hiding the debt was wrong, but at the time, it felt like the only way to protect her from my mistakes." Dr. Lee nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "Hiding things, even with good intentions, can create more harm than good. It's crucial to keep the lines of communication open, especially about topics as sensitive as money." The sessions were intense, often leaving Eric and Sarah emotionally exhausted, but also strangely hopeful. They were learning to navigate their finances and their feelings, a dual journey that was gradually bringing them closer. As they continued their meetings with both Mrs. Thompson and Dr. Lee, small but significant changes began to emerge. They started to talk more openly at home, discussing their budgets and financial goals over dinner. These conversations were awkward at first, fraught with pauses and careful words, but gradually they found a rhythm, a new way of connecting that was built on honesty and effort. One evening, after a particularly productive session, they sat together in their living room, the same place where the crisis had first unfolded. Eric reached for Sarah's hand, a gesture that felt like a promise. "We're doing it, aren't we?" he said, a note of surprise in his voice. Sarah squeezed his hand, a smile touching her lips. "We are. It's hard, but I think we're actually making progress." That night, as they reviewed their revised budget together, the numbers on the spreadsheet seemed less daunting. There was a sense of achievement, however small, in each decision they made together. It was a glimpse of hope, a sign that perhaps they were on the right path after all. In the softly lit room of Dr. Lee's office, Eric and Sarah prepared themselves for another therapy session. This time, however, there was a palpable sense of urgency in the air. Today's session was about diving deeper, unearthing the emotional undercurrents that fueled their financial discord. Dr. Lee sensed the couple's readiness to confront these truths, facilitating a space that encouraged openness and vulnerability. "Let's talk about what's really going on beneath the numbers," Dr. Lee suggested, her voice steady and reassuring. "Sarah, you've mentioned feeling betrayed by Eric's actions. Can we explore what that betrayal feels like to you?" Sarah nodded, taking a deep breath before speaking. It's like, every time I think about the debt, it's not just the money that hurts. It's the fact that he didn't trust me enough to tell me. It makes me feel like I'm not a true partner in this marriage." Her words hung in the air, heavy with hurt. Eric listened, his face etched with remorse. "I never wanted to make you feel that way," he responded softly. "I thought I was protecting you from the stress, but I see now I was just isolating myself and us." Dr. Lee observed their interaction, noting the shift in their communication. "Eric, what were you afraid of when you decided to hide the debt?" Eric's voice was a mix of confession and realization. "I was afraid of being seen as a failure. I grew up in a family where money problems were equated with personal failings. I didn't want Sarah to see me as incapable or weak." Sarah reached out, touching Eric's arm gently, a gesture that spoke of her growing understanding. "I wish you had trusted me to support you, no matter what. We're supposed to be a team." Dr. Lee encouraged this exchange, guiding them to recognize the patterns that had governed their behaviors. "It's important to see how our past experiences influence our current actions. Eric, by hiding the debt, you were trying to maintain a sense of control, but it came at the cost of your mutual trust." The session deepened, and with each revelation, the walls between them slowly started to crumble. They discussed fears, mistakes, and vulnerabilities, not just as accusations, but as shared burdens. It was during these moments that Eric and Sarah began to truly see each other again, not just as partners in marriage, but as allies in recovery. "Moving forward," Dr. Lee interjected, "how can we ensure that this openness continues? What practical steps can you take to maintain this level of honesty?" The couple thought for a moment before Sarah answered, "Regular check-ins about our finances, maybe setting aside time each week to go over everything, no matter how uncomfortable it is." Eric agreed, adding, "And not just about the bills or debts, but about how we're feeling in general. If we're stressed or worried, we talk about it. No more hiding." "Exactly," Dr. Lee nodded approvingly. "Building a new foundation on transparency and support can transform the challenges into strengths." The breakthrough in therapy marked a turning point in their relationship. They left the session feeling exhausted yet empowered, armed with new tools and a renewed commitment to face their challenges together. As they drove home, the conversation continued, more open and honest than it had been in months. They discussed immediate steps to address the debt, but also talked about their dreams for the future, dreams that now seemed possible to achieve together. "We have a lot to fix, but I feel like we're finally moving in the right direction," Eric said, glancing over at Sarah with a tentative smile. Sarah returned the smile, feeling a mix of relief and cautious optimism. "Yes, we are. And whatever comes, we'll handle it together." That evening, as they sat down with their financial planner, Mrs. Thompson, to revise their budget and debt repayment plan, the task felt different. It was no longer just about numbers and deadlines, but about rebuilding their life together, step by step. Mrs. Thompson noticed the change in their dynamics. "I'm seeing a lot of progress here, not just in your budget, but in how you're working as a team. It's excellent to see." "Thank you," Sarah said, her voice reflecting a newfound strength. "We're learning. It's tough, but we're getting there." With each decision and compromise, Eric and Sarah were not just planning their financial recovery, but were also fortifying their relationship. They were no longer avoiding the hard conversations. Instead, they were facing them together, a united front, ready to overcome the past and build a future defined by mutual trust and shared goals. After their pivotal therapy session, Eric and Sarah were more determined than ever to rebuild, not just their finances, but their partnership. They knew that the road ahead was daunting, but for the first time in a long while, they felt equipped to face it together. They started by setting a date each week, Finance Friday, dedicated solely to discussing their financial situation. These meetings took place at their kitchen table, with laptops open, spreadsheets ready, and a jar of freshly brewed coffee to ease the intensity of the discussions. "We need a clear view of everything," Sarah said during their first session, her tone firm yet hopeful. "Every debt, every bill, and every little expense we can trim." Eric nodded, pulling up a detailed spreadsheet. "Here's everything: the credit card debts, the car loan, and the medical bills from last year. It's all here." Together, they reviewed each item, categorizing them by interest rates and due dates. They decided to follow the avalanche method for debt repayment, prioritizing debts with the highest interest rates to reduce the total amount paid over time. They also set up automatic payments for their minimum dues to ensure they never missed a payment, a small step that would help improve their credit score over time. "Next, we need to set a strict budget," Eric suggested. "We've been too loose with our spending. It's time to really tighten up." Sarah agreed, and they proceeded to outline their monthly budget. They allocated funds for necessities like housing, utilities, and groceries, but drastically cut discretionary spending on dining out, entertainment, and subscriptions. Every dollar saved was redirected towards their debt repayment plan. "We should also start an emergency fund," Sarah proposed. "Even if it's just a little each month, we never know when we might need it." "That's a great idea," Eric said, genuinely impressed by how proactive Sarah was being. "It'll stop us from falling back into debt if something unexpected comes up." As the weeks turned into months, Eric and Sarah stuck to their plan diligently. They watched as the balances on their debts slowly decreased, each payment a small victory in their larger battle. They celebrated these milestones, however small, with a sense of pride and accomplishment. Their financial planner, Mrs. Thompson, continued to play a crucial role in their recovery. During their quarterly reviews, she would praise their progress, offering adjustments to their strategy as their financial health improved. "You two are doing an excellent job," Mrs. Thompson commended during one of their sessions. "Keep this up, and you'll be out of debt much sooner than you think." Encouraged by her words, Eric and Sarah also began to plan for the future. They discussed long-term goals like saving for retirement, establishing college funds for their children, and eventually buying a home in a neighborhood closer to Sarah's family. "Thinking about the future used to scare me," Eric confessed one evening, his voice a mixture of reflection and newfound optimism. "Now it feels like we're actually planning for something real, something good." Sarah smiled, squeezing his hand. "We're turning our fears into plans, our plans into actions. We're really doing this together." As they continued their financial journey, their relationship healed and strengthened. The trust that had been so badly damaged began to reform. Fortified by their shared goals and mutual efforts, they learned to communicate openly, not just about money, but about their hopes, their fears, and their dreams. By the end of the year, a significant portion of their debt was paid off. They even managed to save enough to take a small family vacation. Nothing extravagant, but a celebration of all they had accomplished. It was a testament to their hard work and dedication, a symbol of their commitment to each other and their family's future. Sitting together on the beach, watching their children play in the waves, Eric and Sarah felt a deep sense of contentment. The journey had been hard, filled with challenges and setbacks, but they had faced each one as a team. The future, once a source of anxiety, now held promise and possibility. "We've come a long way," Sarah said, her voice filled with gratitude and love. "Yes, we have," Eric agreed, looking out at the horizon. "And we'll keep going, together." This moment of reflection marked not just the resolution of their financial woes, but the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. They had charted a course through stormy waters and emerged stronger, ready to face whatever the future might hold. As the sun set on another year, Eric and Sarah sat together on their porch, a ritual that had become their time to connect and reflect. The air was crisp, and the sky was painted with streaks of orange and pink. It was moments like these that reminded them of how far they had come, not just in their finances, but in their relationship. "Remember when we could barely talk about money without getting into a fight?" Eric asked, a soft chuckle escaping his lips. Sarah nodded, a gentle smile on her face. "I do. It feels like a lifetime ago. I'm proud of us, how we've managed to turn things around." Their journey had been steeped in challenges, but each obstacle had been a stepping stone to greater understanding and deeper trust. The once overwhelming debt that had loomed over them was now significantly reduced, thanks to their disciplined budgeting, regular financial reviews, and commitment to their repayment plan. "We've learned so much through all this," Sarah reflected, "about money, about each other, about what it really means to be partners." Eric took her hand, squeezing it lightly. "We did more than just repair our finances, Sarah. We rebuilt our foundation, stronger this time, with honesty and transparency at its core." They had developed new habits too. Monthly financial planning sessions had become a standard part of their routine, but these meetings were more than just reviews of numbers. They were a reaffirmation of their commitment to work through all of life's challenges together. "It's not just about being out of debt," Eric said thoughtfully. "It's about how we handle challenges together. We're a team, in every sense of the word. And we're teaching our kids what a healthy financial and emotional relationship looks like," Sarah added, pride evident in her voice. "That might be the most important lesson of all." Their recovery had also instilled a new sense of confidence and empowerment. They no longer feared the unexpected financial hiccups. Instead, they felt equipped to handle them. More importantly, they knew they could tackle them together, without secrets or fear of judgment. As they sat there, watching the day give way to the twilight, Eric and Sarah felt a profound gratitude for the journey they had undertaken. It was not just their finances that had undergone a transformation. Their entire approach to life had changed. They were more mindful, more appreciative, and more focused on what truly mattered. "The trust we have now, it's different," Sarah mused. "It's deeper, more mature. It's not just about believing in each other's words, but in each other's intentions, our dreams." "Yes," Eric agreed. "And with every challenge we overcome, that trust grows. We're not just surviving, we're thriving." Their conversation lingered into the night, a gentle and hopeful discourse on their past struggles and future aspirations. They spoke of dreams, some old, some new, all seeming within reach now that they had a solid plan and each other. As they stood to go inside, Eric paused and looked at Sarah with a renewed sense of admiration and love. "We made it through the storm, Sarah. Together." "We did," she replied, her hand in his. "And whatever comes next, we'll face that together too." This conversation, rich with reflection and forward-looking optimism, was the perfect prelude to the closing chapter of their story. They had not only weathered the storm, but had emerged from it stronger and more united, ready to continue their journey with confidence and a clear vision for the future.